History boy.
First, I just want to say thank you to the Affiliate World team for having me back here. You guys put on an absolutely insane event. This stuff is so cool. So thank you again for having me. Now, with that said, we got a lot to get through today, so let's boogie. There we go. So you're probably here because you know that times are changing. AI is dominating the headlines, it's dominating your social feed, and the future is generative. But what the hell does that mean, right? That's what we're going to talk about here today. So first, a little bit about me. My name is Rory Flynn, and I am not a designer. I am not a media buyer for that standpoint either, but I'm the founder of Systematic AI, a business that was oddly enough born out of Affiliate World Barcelona. So what is Systematic? Systematic is an operational AI company. What that means is we look into people's businesses, we find operational holes, and then we plug those holes with AI tools. Now, it wasn't always like this. When it started, I was working at a digital marketing agency, primarily helping clients with email marketing and paid media, but we had 90 clients. And at the end of the day, we probably putting out anywhere from 900 to 1,000 emails per month. So we just had a ridiculous creative need. If we extrapolate that out over the course of the year, probably around anything like 12,000 plus emails with only 5 designers. So we're oftentimes met with just having an insane creative lift. We had minimal assets, and we just had a general lack of bandwidth. But we then decided to use AI to amplify productivity, reduce cost, and just generally create happy clients. So, who are you? Enough about me, let's talk about you guys. Are you a media buyer? Are you an email marketer? Are you an affiliate? If you are, you're probably using AI in some capacity. Now, the real question is, how are you using it? You're probably using it for fun in some way, shape, or form, but maybe you're using it for single tasks. Maybe you're building sales copy. Maybe you're building, sales scripts. But if you've gotten to the point of automation, awesome, congratulations, you're probably ahead of the curve. But are you thinking about building full systems? Because this is where it's heading, and this is what we're going to talk about today. So, here are the facts. Boston Consulting Group recently polled 758 of their consultants, and they found that those using AI were completing 12% more tasks. They were also completing those 12% more tasks at a 25% quicker rate than their counterparts who were not using AI. So they're also reporting 40% higher quality results. So AI is fulfilling its promise of essentially just better production in less time. Now, where does that leave you, right? You're probably using AI, but you're maybe at tool overload. There's a million now, right? There's so much information. You don't know how to use it. You don't know how to string it together. But if you want to solve an operational AI, if you want to operationalize AI, just start with solving small problems, right? You want to identify holes in your business. You want to find tools that fit those holes. And then you want to start to build SOPs around that. But that being said, what are your problems? What are we typically facing, right? Last time I was here at Affiliate World Barcelona, I spoke to a number of media buyers, and it seems like there's a lot of the same problems here. There's a creative issue. Now, that being said, every month you need to develop new ad angles, you need to have fresh creative, and you need to have all the variants, right? But the average media buyer seems like they're dealing with fatigued assets, small variety of assets, and just subpar static. Right, and that's what we're going to focus on here is the subpar static today. Now, the static problem that we're dealing with, it oftentimes comes in limited quantity, right? Like you get a photo shoot done, you have a set of images, but then how many photo shoots can you actually run? It's time inefficient because, again, you think about what it takes to get from point A to point B of creating an entire photo library, right? You got to work with a photographer, you got to go through revisions, there's editing, post-production time, things like that. Now, it's also expensive. So you can't do this all the time, but how can we essentially solve this problem? That's what we're going to talk about now. So the next 25 minutes, we're going to talk about how you can use Midjourney to juice your creative, how you can asset hack your brand identity, and how you can build AI systems for scalable ad gen and what that ROI potential looks like. So first, how do we get here? In 2023, we were witness to the explosion of AI. We were introduced to tools like ChatGPT, Midjourney, Stable Diffusion, DALL-E, and it was novel, right? It was cool, it was fun. But the novelty is wearing off, and now businesses are starting to leverage them. So this is kind of how I see it all going right now. There's about 5 stages. This is just my own personal thoughts here. Essentially, everyone is at stage 1 is basically you find tools, you start testing them. Stage 2, effectively, like you start using them in your day-to-day life. Either it's on a personal side or it's in your business, you're just using it individually. Stage 3 is really like operationalizing things. So people in the business start to, maybe in your company, you have everyone using AI consistently, but they're all doing it in like a siloed fashion. There's no SOPs around it. Now, 4 is when we start getting to like operationalizing the entire use of this, maybe multiple systems, multiple tools all functioning together, which is really, a good place to be. 5 is when, we're going to start to push into this at some point when those systems become operationalized and completely congruent so that you can build fully custom trained models on those systems that run autonomously. So what does all that mean, right? And where are we? I think majority of us are probably in stage 2 or 3 right now, right? We're finding tools, we're operationalizing, we're figuring out how to use it, but we're not really fully optimized to build systems yet. So people are finding these holes, they're solving these problems, they're operationalizing, but like, how do we know this is happening? How do we know that other businesses are doing this? Like, maybe you've seen ads like this. So this is Suit Supply. Lucky for me, I came across this on my feed before the presentation, but looking at this, essentially, this is 100% generated by AI. When I look at this, the models may not be generated by AI, but the background 100% is. So when you think about this, it doesn't have to be this full end-to-end creative system. Maybe it can just be something like a background that you switch out and have options, right? The difficulty level on this is super low, but like the effectiveness level of this is potentially pretty high. So why are they doing this, right? Because they're on brand. They're on brand, they're visually unique, they're probably gonna stop your scroll, right? And they're scalable because you can take one of those backgrounds, hit generate 5 times, and have 20 new backgrounds. So even Thomas over here, Thomas White, says it's a brilliant picture, great clothes, and of course the camel. That camel doesn't exist. So you can actually think about how this can translate to you and your business, and even something like camel here, which makes no sense in the ad to me, but whatever, it works. So what's possible now? What is happening now? What are businesses doing now? This is Instacart. So this is a project I worked on with the team at Superside. If you're not familiar with Superside, they're an international design team. They're super talented, and they basically, everything they touch comes to gold. So, like, we teamed up to work with Instacart to create a whole suite of ads, everything generated by AI. The images, the copy, the variants, so we could do this at scale. So why were they doing that, though? Why did they want to use AI? Because they're a mature business. They run a lot of ads. They run a lot of creative. But the problem they were facing is if they wanted to be more localized and hyper-targeted, they just didn't have the assets to fit. So if they wanted to talk to an audience in India and they want to talk to an audience in South America, and they're using pictures of American models, sometimes it doesn't make sense. They wanted to be more localized there, but also localized in the copy. So essentially what we're doing is utilizing Midjourney and ChatGPT to aid in the creative lift. So the initial project we ran for them was just 500 full, fully created, generated ads and polished everything that we were going to work for them. But the interesting thing here is the results on our end, because we wanted to track this meticulously to make sure that it was actually fulfilling its promise. We saw a 65% reduction in cost and a 65% reduction in production times. So again, that's what we're talking about. Now, this is as simple as it can be. This is the simplest part of this workflow. Essentially, we're creating an image in Midjourney, we're building a template in Figma, we're generating the copy in ChatGPT, and then we're putting it all together, right? Now, how can you do this, right? Think about that one ad. That's just one. If I told you we could switch that to 7, 8, 9 images, 10 different calls to action, 10 different headlines, 10 different aspect ratios, push one button, they generate all those copies, right? That's what we're talking about. So, how can you do this? Now, most people, they don't have brand photography. So if you just want to have some creative and you need to start from ground zero, Midjourney is going to be your best friend. So creating ads is going to start, or creating unique ads is going to start here. And the best way to get the most production out of Midjourney is to understand the tool and how it works. Know what works, know what doesn't, It's just going to make you quicker, and that's going to make us able to scale this. So when we look at this, if you're not familiar with Midjourney, it's a powerful image generator. Basically, you type in some words and it generates an image, but it's a super creative tool, and it's like the best of AI right now that you can use very easily. So the good thing about Midjourney is that we were introduced to like the prompt, the idea of the prompt, with ChatGPT. And essentially, the art of Midjourney is in the prompt. So if you're going to prompt Midjourney, I want you to think about this sort of equation here. Like, clear and direct prompt will equal clear and direct output. Ambiguous prompt will equal ambiguous output. Now, what does that mean? Clear and direct prompt means you're just giving it really solid sound direction, and it'll produce exactly what you want. When you give it something ambiguous and short and like with no direction, it's just you're going to let Midjourney fill in the blanks, and it'll take its own creative liberty with your images. So, like creating, I'm sure if you've seen some of this stuff on social, creating futuristic living rooms and spaceships and aliens, that stuff's cool. But we need stuff to look real, right? So the best way to get that out of Midjourney is to use photorealistic and photography elements. Like, luckily, Midjourney responds very well to that. So this is typically what I'm looking at as a sort of structure here. I want to make sure that I'm telling Midjourney a story. Now, what does that mean? Typically, I'm prompting it for the subject and the action of the photo, the environment, the composition, the shot type, the mood, the emotion, specific cameras and lenses. This is important. Typically, that'll trigger Midjourney into like a photorealistic mindset. So you'll get more production out of it when you use specific cameras. Now, other things like film stock, lighting, color scheme, details, and modifiers, all good to use. Do you have to use all of these in every single prompt? No. Is this a great structure to get consistency? Yes. So this is a cheat sheet over here too. I'm going to link this at the back end of the presentation. This will give you all the functionality you need in Midjourney to actually scale this, but also some elements that you can use as well to really start getting you going. Now, the second important thing about prompting Midjourney is the prompt structure. Like, what does that mean though? Basically, Midjourney will weight your prompt from like left to right as you're reading it. Like it'll place the most importance on the first part of the prompt and the least importance on the back end. So like typically, again, when you're looking at this, think about what you want. If you want something to focus more on the environment or something to focus more on the color, whatever that is, put it first. If it's inconsequential but you still want it in there, put it last, right? Think about it as a kind of a sliding scale. So let's look at an example here. This is the prompt that we're going to use for the next couple slides, but essentially it's a Land Rover Defender, Vibrant Cusco Peru, freeze motion, asymmetrical composition, 35 millimeter, Berger Panchro 400, extreme tonal balance, street photography. So we have the subject, we have the environment, we have freeze motion, which will give it like a little dynamic motion to the image. Asymmetrical composition means that everything just won't be lined up with perfect symmetry. We have 35 millimeter, which is the camera, that'll give it a little bit more of an analog feel. Berger Panchro 400 is a film stock that'll give it a little bit more of a moody vibe. Extreme tonal balance is the balance between light and dark elements in a photo. Typically, really good photographers use this, so it's a great term to use. And then street photography is just like a more candid style of photography. So let's run this and see what we get. Now, this first image over here on the left just says, which is labeled Land Rover. That's the prompt itself. That's the prompt from the last slide. That's what we just ran. We got the car, we got Cusco, we got some tonal balance, we definitely got some mood. So that's a really good shot. Now, these other three, those I just changed up the first element of the prompt so you can see how significantly each image changes, right? So in the second prompt, which says Vibrant Cusco Peru, I put that first. And what came through was vibrant. And also the city came through. The car is pushed back and the image is more focused on the city and the environment, right? So same thing with the extreme tonal balance. You can see there's way more light and dark elements in that photo. And then in the last one, the Berger Panchro, it's definitely more moody. So sometimes when you're prompting, maybe you're not getting what you want. The prompt doesn't suck. It's just sometimes structured wrong. So think about this, probably will save you a ton of hours as you move through creating on Midjourney. But these are some of the examples that you can expect using a structure like this. Technically, I just pulled 10 of these out of my library. There's probably 50,000 in there. But the goal here is to be consistent because that's going to make you fast, and making you fast is going to make you way better at just getting this stuff out to market. So now let's talk about asset hacking. This is where it gets fun. So what is asset hacking? Typically, we're using asset hacking when we have a brand with strong imagery. So if your brand has a really strong visual signature, think Apple, think Red Bull, think things like that. That's what we're talking about, asset hacking. And really what it is, we're just reverse engineering an image. So we're going to break an image down into visual building blocks that we can then take and generate 1,000 more pieces of creative from it. So it's good because it keeps your images consistent, so you can keep a brand look and feel. The relevance is really what's important there. So just a little disclaimer, please don't use this on other people's brands. Just use it on your own. So this is the process. Essentially what we're going to do here is we're going to collect our assets, then we're going to use the describe function in Midjourney, then we're going to fine tune this in ChatGPT, then we're going to go back to Midjourney and use an image prompt, then we're going to iterate. But it sounds like a lot. I'm going to walk through this step by step so you guys can see the progression. So first we're going to organize our assets. This is Red Bull, if you can see that on the screen, but they're not a client of mine. I'm just using this for example purposes. Essentially, they have very iconic imagery, and to be honest, their stuff just kicks ass, so I wanted to use it. But looking at this, you can see they all have like a very unique visual signature. There's a lot of contrast. It's the colors really pop. The composition's a little bit interesting. So we're going to take this and we're going to turn it into 1,000 other pictures that look just like this, right? Now, see that F1 car at the top? Now we're going to go to the describe function in Midjourney. We're going to run this. Now, what is describe? Describe essentially takes your image and turns it into text. So when you run the describe function, how you do it is you type \describe. Then from there, you paste your image in, you hit enter, and it generates 4 prompts. So those 4 unique prompts, it'll describe for you. I personally would not be able to do that. So it's really helpful in this case. Oftentimes not perfect, so we're going to keep going through this process. But when we run this, we'll run all 4 of these and we'll see what happens. So that's our original image on the left. Then on the right over here are the 4 described prompts that we just ran. So when you look at this, maybe some people would say that's good. I look at that and say that's kind of crap, right? Like it doesn't look anything like that image. They're all super AI looking, polished, weird. So what are we going to do here? Now we're going to keep going on this step of the process, and we're going to take this prompt into ChatGPT. So this is essentially a 2-step prompt here. Now what we're doing is we're going to take that image, that first image of the F1 car, the original one from Red Bull, we're going to paste it into ChatGPT, and we're going to ask it to analyze the image. What we want to do is create a prompt for an AI generator. I'm going to read this prompt, somewhat verbatim here, but describe the image like an award-winning professional photographer and in the extreme technical detail. The goal here, we want to take out as much of that technical detail and extract as much as possible. The stuff that we don't know, that I don't know. I don't know an aperture, a lens type, things like that. So then we'll also use this formula to structure the prompt. So we'll use the prompt structure that we used earlier. We'll include specific technical details, camera lenses, things like that, and we want to stay away from using long sentences. So we run that prompt. What will happen is it'll give you a really nice, synthesized, more robust prompt than we had before. So the second prompt we're going to utilize is basically we're going to blend these 2 prompts together. So the one that ChatGPT generated and the one that Midjourney generated, we're going to plug them both together, have ChatGPT remix it, and then you can also ask it to provide different variations if you need it. So when that happens, this is what our new prompt looks like, right? Panning shot, Red Bull racing car, dark indigo and amber. So we got the color scheme. We got a lot more technical detail. We have dappled sunlight, bold contrast, delicate precision. Like, this is stuff that I'm not going to be able to create on my own. Like, I could try to describe that prompt or that image, but it's never going to look like this. So that's why we use ChatGPT to help. Now, when we run that, this is what it looks like. So again, is it good? Yes. Is it there yet? No. Like, this is close. This looks way more photorealistic than the options we just had. And like, there's just something missing, right? Like the composition's not there, like the life isn't there. It still looks kind of AI to me. So what do we do next? This is image prompting. So image prompting, there we go. So image prompting, what happens here? Think of image prompting as taking a photo and text and prompting them together and blending it. So we're going to take that original photo that we had of the Red Bull racing car, then we're going to take that prompt that we just generated in ChatGPT, add them into the same prompt bar, hit enter. So the good thing about this is if you've used ChatGPT and you've used it like in a pretty consistent fashion, it's just like you're doing the same process here, like you're giving Midjourney inspiration. So the same thing as ChatGPT when you would give it data and ask it to basically generate off of that data, this is the same process. So this is our results. Now, I think we nailed it. This is pretty damn close. This is about as close as it's gonna get. So we took that image, we broke it down into individual parts. Now we can build it back out, right? Like we built the visual signature. And this is where it starts to get interesting, right? Now all you have to do is iterate. So think about that prompt that we just talked about, right? Like the panning, the panning shot, Red Bull racing car, then all the technical details. All you have to do now, instead of just going and rewriting a new prompt, is take that technical piece, take the color scheme, take all of that. All you have to switch is the subject. So in these, I used the same exact prompt. All I did was change it to motorcycle instead of Red Bull racing car. I changed it to motorbike or dune buggy or skier. So as you can see, it's able to do this in 5 seconds. This isn't a professional photo shoot, right? This took me less than 10 minutes. Now I can take this and scale these and get maybe like 40 different variations of these. So it's infinite in terms of what you can do, right? So that's the original on the left, and then that's what we came up with on the right. Those are the hacked assets. Like I said, I think we did pretty good. Like that, the dune buggies are almost, you can't even tell the difference. So what we've done here is just opened up the possibility to just create these new types of assets at volume. So how do we put this whole thing together, right? Like this is now, we've done one part of it, now let's try to string the whole system together. So if we're gonna do this and you wanna create 1,000 ads, gonna be totally candid with you guys. I just used the title One Prompt 1,000 Ads because it sounded pretty sexy, but this doesn't have to be 1,000. It can be 200, it can be 10,000. Just depends on how many variants you want. So what you'll need for that is 5 images, you'll need 5 headers and subheaders, you'll need 5 calls to action, and then you'll need 8 different aspect ratios for whatever medium you're gonna be running your ads on, whether that's Google, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, whatever. So then if you times those all together, right, that'll give you 1,000 different combinations. And the tools you'll need here, Midjourney, ChatGPT, Figma, if you're not familiar with it, it's like a web-based Photoshop program, it's really good. CopyDoc, that's probably the most important thing of the entire mix. It's a plugin for Figma, and then with any sort of spreadsheet like software, so Google, Excel, whatever you have. So this is what the process looks like and how we're gonna go through it here. Essentially, you're gonna generate your templates in Figma, you're gonna generate your images in Midjourney, then you're gonna go to ChatGPT, generate your copy, then we're gonna organize it all in a spreadsheet, then we're gonna put the whole damn thing together. So let's start with the template gen. Typically, we're building this in Figma, right? What you want to do here is use your highest performing templates if you have them. If not, a designer can be really helpful here. But at the end of the day, what we want to get in here is placeholders. We want to get placeholders for your headlines, your subheadlines, your CTAs, your images, so that this is essentially a template that the tool can read, and we can then generate all these at will. So then we can generate our images in Midjourney, right? You can asset hack, you can create the original way, which is just from scratch. You can use your own images here. It doesn't have to be in Midjourney, but again, pick winners that we're gonna utilize for the purposes of this example. Then we're gonna generate copy. So I know a lot of you are probably utilizing ChatGPT in your own way, generating copy in your own way. You can do it that way, you don't have to do it this way. This is just how we do it. So typically what we're doing here, we've now built like a custom GPT to do this at scale so we don't have to reprompt this thing every single time. But instead of boring the hell out of you guys reading like a 2-page long prompt, we're using a lot of data, we're being very specific in it. This is kind of the content categories that we use in the prompt. So essentially we're putting in the company overview, the brand guidelines, the brand tone and voice, like the consumer communication guidelines, brand marketing examples, target audience, so on and so forth. Using a lot of copy guidelines to make sure that it outputs in a very specific fashion. We want to keep this stuff short and punchy, so that's one thing that I would definitely recommend so it doesn't create this long form copy for you that's not going to fit. So once we do it, we're going to go organize it. This, I guarantee, is the most unsexy slide you will see today, but it might have the sexiest result, right? what we're going to do here is basically you're going to structure a spreadsheet. You're going to go from left to right. You're going to have your header, your header, your subheader, your call to action, your images, and then you're going to have the image number that it associates with in Figma so that it can actually link together. This will probably take you 10 to 15 minutes of manual work. So I think that's the trade-off that we have to have here. But at the end of the day, you could have ChatGPT structure that for you if you wanted to. So once this is done, once you have these all placed out in order, you're going to zip this file up with the image assets that you want to add to the Figma board, and then we're going to run it. And that's how this is all going to happen. Now, we're going to go into Figma, and we're going to use the Copy Doc plugin. I'll say it again, Copy Doc. That's the main linchpin in everything here. So it'll essentially, you run a sync between the spreadsheet and the Figma board, and all these ads will just one click populate the whole thing. So you just went from doing all this manual work, copy, pasting, changing copy, just changing copy, changing images over and over and over again, to clicking one button and then you have 1,000 ads just like that. And like I said, this could be 200, this could be 10,000. So this is what the final product looked like. And we did 1,000 ads in less than an hour the first time we did this. So this is essentially where we're going, right? Like this system to me, still a little bit clunky. It's not fully fleshed out because the tools haven't caught up yet, or I'm just not smart enough to figure it out yet. So this is essentially where we're at now. But why do you need 1,000 ads, right? I mean, if there's media buyers in the room, I don't have to tell you why you need so much to test, right? It's just there's a massive testing opportunity. Like the localization piece of this is massive because you can get hyper-targeted, you can change your models, you can change your language, you can change your copy to fit more specific locations depending on who you're targeting. Like now that it's in Figma too, you have full control. So you have full control of these images. You can edit the templates. You can adjust the images if you want to. You can put different, you can change the color of the CTA. It's a fully accessible, suite of ads. And it's just a major time saver. I mean, who wants to copy paste 1,000 ads? I don't. So think about that when we get to this next piece. So there we go. So if you're going to do this and you're considering this is kind of what you need to know, right? Like, there's still a really good use for designers here if you have them. It's not going to totally replace them. Like building templates and stuff like that can be very helpful. It's much faster, much more scalable for things like that. If you don't have them, hire people on Upwork, things of that nature. But really only 20% of this process was done with AI. We did Midjourney and we did ChatGPT. Like that's it. The rest of the process takes over, which is where all the work gets done. So it's a replicable process. Think about it like that. It doesn't have to be everything created with AI. It can be, here's my winning ad, make 50 variations of it, same process. You could have winning images and you want to change the copy, same process. You could have winning copy and want to try different images, same process. Now, that's just how we can scale the hell out of this thing. And of course I have to talk about this because we're talking AI, so we're going to do a little bit of this legal and ethical consideration here. Now, if you're going to do this and you work in an organization and whatnot, you definitely want to talk to the key stakeholders in the business, right? Of course, there's some concerns when it comes to AI, and we'll talk about them now. Like, I understand, and I am not a lawyer, but the US copyright says, basically, anything that is fully created by AI cannot be copyrighted. So when you think about this, whatever you generate in Midjourney, you have to treat it like stock photography. Everyone can use it, but I don't know how many people are going to go download your ad, screenshot your ad, and use it verbatim. So just understand that. But if you're going to create images from scratch, also know that this example over here, very famous photograph from National Geographic in the 80s, what I did was I looked up the technical information of how the image was created essentially, put some other keywords in it, ran it through Midjourney, came out with almost the exact same thing. So this is a copyright issue, right? How do you get around that? Look at things like reverse image search. So you run this through the reverse image search. I like to use tools like DupliChecker. If you have something that's even remotely close, don't do it. Just rerun the image a ton of times until it doesn't look like it. So that's one piece. The other thing is do's and don'ts. So I like to think about when I talk to my team about how they're prompting. One thing you'll see on the internet a lot, on Twitter, on social media, is here's my prompt, and it says, make XYZ in the style of Wes Anderson, you're using an artist name or something along those lines. I don't want to play in that sandbox. We'll just stay away from that, right? If you really wanted your image to look like something from a Wes Anderson movie, Go to ChatGPT, ask what composition he uses, what kind of equipment he uses, what kind of color scheme he uses. It'll spit out that same visual signature that we just went through, and then you can apply that same thing so you don't have to have any risk, right? That's what we have to think about. So this is the important part, right? What we're all here for is the results and the ROI. So in 114 projects that we worked on in November, at the low end was a 30% reduction in hours spent on this stuff. Where it gets real sexy is on the high end at 85% reduction in hours spent. Now, for clients like Instacart, an 85% reduction in production time means an 85% reduction in cost. So essentially, AI is fulfilling its promise of amplified productivity, reduced cost, and in less time. So with that, this is a little gift for you guys. This is a QR code. Basically, what's in here is a Notion doc. It'll have the Midjourney cheat sheet. It'll have 4 Midjourney PDFs in there for beginners guys to get you guys started. Also put some prompt formulas in there, some additional resources. Take it, use it, do whatever you want, have fun with it. And that's it. I appreciate you guys for having me.